Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Courtney Vito, who is here on behalf of Memorial Care Saddleback Medical Center. Well, Dr. Vito, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Now, I know that you're fairly new with Memorial Care as a breast oncology surgeon. So will you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I just recently joined at the end of December, and it's really been a wonderful experience so far. When I got into the medical field, I originally thought I wanted to be an ophthalmologist, and I loved all the lights, the lasers in clinic. It was fantastic. But as I started going through the specialty, somebody had mentioned, you're more like an eye dentist. You won't have as much of a long-term relationship with your patients. There's small surgeries in and out. And it was something that kind of stuck with me during my first year that's called internship. And during that year, it just so happened, nobody expects very much when you're not going into general surgery. You're just there for a year. I was put on the surgeon service, and he was our chairman at my chairman of surgery at my medical school, and he was a breast surgeon. His name was Dr. Wood, and he was fantastic, and he really inspired me. And then within a span of that year, one of my aunts, my grandmother, and my mother's best friend, who was like a second mom to us growing up, all got diagnosed. Oh, wow. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Wood operated on my grandmother while I was one of his trainees. And it was really at that point that I saw this wonderful, lasting relationship you can have with your breast cancer patients. And it really inspired me. So I stopped with the ophthalmology plans, and I switched into becoming a breast surgeon. And throughout that time, I've done a lot of stuff. I came out to California. I finished my training with breast and oncoplastic surgery at USC, and that included time at Hoag, and learned to use plastic surgery techniques, make patients well, happy, healthy, and whole. And have had a really varied career from there. I started out at City of Hope. I was on their main campus for almost a decade, and learned a lot about research and different sort of higher end elements of treating breast cancer. So anyone can operate on a breast, but it's about knowing when and how to operate, and why to operate, and how to work with your team, your medical oncologist, radiation oncologist, for best outcomes. And really working at City of Hope, I learned that well, and I've been really excited to bring that into our community here.
That's great. And we've had lots of conversations with the City of Hope, and you probably couldn't have better training, right? Is from them. So that's amazing. That's awesome. So now in your current role with Memorial Care, what are some things that you are responsible for?
So I'm really responsible for the surgical care, as well as a lot of the treatment planning for our newly diagnosed breast cancer patients, as well as patients that have high-risk lesions in the breast. Not every lesion that we get biopsied is cancer, but many of them still do need surgical care because of either risk of cancer or otherwise risk to the woman's health. And I'm kind of responsible for coordinating that from the outset.
Okay. And then obviously we've had a situation here with the last year that, lots of people have been afraid to come in to have their regular mammograms, doctor visits, dental appointments. I mean, the whole thing. So going forward now, we have lower cases, and we count on them every day. Lowering is certainly our hope. What are some things that you want to remind people regarding their mammograms?
I would say, first of all, I understand how you feel wanting to be at home. I too missed my annual exams in 2020. I wish in retrospect I had gone in, but the fear was real. And the fear was real amongst healthcare providers, very intelligent, respectable people in not only infectious disease, but across the fields. And because of that, you have to remember that even though we're physicians, we're people too. We have our healthcare needs too. And because of that, I've really incorporated into my practice what I would want done for me as a patient. So all of my patients have the opportunity to meet with me on televideo first. Right. So one of the nice things there, just like you and I are talking now, if you were my patient, you could have your spouse or other loved ones with you. We could have a mask off conversation. We can see each other's facial reactions. And we can spend an hour of time going through all your for treatment, me explaining what's going on. And neither one of us have to be fearful because we're both in our own comfortable say is, you know, as case numbers are going down, more people are getting vaccinated. My entire office staff is vaccinated. And we're spacing our patients out so that you shouldn't come into contact with any more than one other patient at most, and oftentimes no other patients when you come in. And because of that, I think we can offer really safe care. I also have seen some unfortunate outcomes recently because of women who delayed their care. And we're seeing more advanced cases of breast cancer. And we're seeing women who now have fewer options with their breast cancer because they waited. And there are women who most definitely wish in retrospect that they hadn't have waited. So I would say, don't let that fear hold you back, because we understand it as people too. You know, many of us physicians weren't thrilled to, you know, we don't want to go to a crowded Costco on Saturday either, but we're here to work with you, and we can work around what your concerns are to make it feel safe for you so that we can actually keep you medically safe from both COVID as well as breast related issues.
Well, very well said. And we appreciate everything that you guys are doing to make our residents and your patients feel, you know, at the utmost safety. And now vaccinations, you know, they've been pretty prevalent here, certainly in our community. We've done over 8,000 vaccinations, including the second shot. However, you know, there's been discussion of kind of laying low for, you know, a couple weeks before you really start getting out there. What are some things you guys are advising people to do regarding some of their appointments?
Well, one of the things that's come up that's been really interesting is we've seen some false positive results with women coming in with screening mammogram and a recent COVID vaccine. The arm where you seem to get your shot, the lymph nodes are right here in the armpit, and they seem to flare up, and they can be flared up for 4 to 6 weeks after your shot.
Oh, interesting.
And when we see that, we always wonder on the mammogram, are those lymph nodes swollen because there's a breast cancer we're missing somewhere? Or is it the COVID shot? And it can lead to unnecessary testing. It can lead to a lot of worry over that 6 weeks while we're waiting to figure things out. So what we've advised people to do is, if you have a symptom, means that you have a lump in your breast or discharge from your nipple or any other change in your breast, come in, because risk benefit is there at the imaging. And if we see an abnormal, we've got ways to deal with it. But if you're totally asymptomatic, what we're asking people to do is, once you know your vaccine schedule, call ahead if your mammogram is coming up, and let's schedule you about 6 weeks after your second dose, so we can limit your risk of additional imaging, false negatives, and unnecessary worry. So that said, everyone needs to come in for their imaging. The question is when, and when is it best safe to do? And then as far as the question about laying low after the vaccine, we do know that to get maximum efficacy after most of them, we need that 14-day period. So I think that's part of what you're referring to, but for us in the mammo and the breast world, we do want to make sure that we're not causing any unnecessary testing or worry. So if you have no problems, and this is purely just for your annual screen, wait until you're 6 weeks post your shot.
That's good information, because, you know, you do wonder how it is affecting people, and obviously there is some inflammation that can occur. So that was news to me. So that's really good advice. Great. Well, wonderful. Well, I appreciate you telling us all this great information. Is there anything else that you'd like to recommend?
You know, I would just like to recommend women right now, be breast self-aware. We're all being a little bit more at home, right? So we can pay a little bit more attention to our bodies. And, you know, the American Cancer Society, as well as several other big societies in the past few years, have said that, you know, you don't need to do a self-breast exam, or you may not need to do routine imaging. And while that's all true for certain cases, don't just shut off your mammograms at 75. Really think about, when we're looking at, you know, life expectancy may be limited to 5 to 10 years, either because of age or other medical conditions. 75 is not a magic number. Remember, I've operated on 90-something-year-olds for breast cancer who are doing really well. I love to see that. And, you know, as far as being self-breast aware, what I mean by that is, make sure you know the texture of your own breasts so that you can tell us when there's a change. And so still periodically touch your breasts. So if you've heard that little snippet out there that we don't need to do self-breast exams anymore, it's not entirely true. It's that you know your breast well enough that you don't have to do it once a month, but that you could detect a change if it happens. And just remember, if you have questions, we're here. You can call. And just like we're watching this on video, I can meet with any woman and go through her symptoms and concerns, and we can get you set up for the right test at the right time.
Perfect. Well, Dr. Vito, thank you so much. It was very nice to meet you. I'm sure we'll talk again.
It was nice meeting you too. Have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for your time.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
And we'll be right back after this.